Hi, I'd like to begin the class lectures with a theory that's really going to be important throughout the entire class. It's Hofstede's theory on work-related values that compared, I think it was 50 countries or more. And our text introduces this theory on page 23 and then later does more in-depth explanation on page 403, but I want to get you familiar with it now because I think it's helpful each week of the course, and not only that, it will help you with your papers. Geert Hofstede was a researcher at Tilburg University, and he operates the Institute for Research on Intercultural Cooperation. And he conducted a study, this goes back quite a few years, he conducted a study involving more than 40 nations. It was in 1968 and then again in 1972. And he published his study in 1984. And he's continued to do research. And not only that, Hofstede is very supportive of others who are doing research with his theory as a foundation. I've had doctoral students that he has supported with materials simply because they were doing research that helps advance his theory. So he's an excellent source. His study was on cultures and comparing cultures, and I've got the wrong page numbers here. It's page 23 in chapter 1 and then page 403 in chapter 15. Culture is defined as a collective mental programming of a group of people in an environment. And individuals are conditioned by culture at different levels. So there's family, social, geographical, region, and professional environment. Hofstede's original study focused on 4 dimensions. There was power distance, uncertainty avoidance, individualism, which has really become the single most popular value in culture, and masculinity. He later added long-term orientation in 91 and indulgence versus restraint in 2010. I'll talk more about all of these. Start off with power distance is a term that describes the extent to which a society accepts that power in institutions and organizations is distributed unequally. So another way to say this is the power within an organization is not distributed equally. Do people tend to like that, dislike that, or do they accept that as just the way it is, or dislike it? Small distance, they dislike it. It's not accepting of the unequal distribution, and large distance is accepting. In other words, in large distance, they think, well, this is just the way it is. The United States has small power distance. We tend not to like that. So everyone in the organization, from the CEO to the janitor, expects to be consulted if you're going to get their buy-in. And that's not true in organizations with large power distance. And with large power distance, it's easy for them to dictate between levels. The Japanese would be an example of that. All right. Some large distance countries, Peru, Mexico, Brazil, I mentioned Japan. Small distance countries, you see on the west here, United States, Canada, Great Britain, and Germany. Just to name a few. In his book, Hofstede, he lists well beyond this. Uncertainty avoidance, the extent to which a society feels threatened by uncertainty and ambiguous situations. So it leads to attempts to avoid these situations by providing greater stability through conforming behavior. So it means they're driven to seek conformity versus they're not. They tolerate ambiguity. And in the United States, we don't particularly like uncertainty, but we do tolerate it. And sometimes I ask people in work environments when they feel like it's ambiguous and they're confused, they don't know what to do. They go do just a task of any type to pass the time. It's kind of like they have a hobby at work. It's when things get so confusing, I don't know what to do, I just go do this hobby. Whereas in countries that really avoid uncertainty, they would seek clarification rather than tolerate it. So countries with strong avoidance, Japan, Peru, Mexico, Brazil. Countries with weak avoidance. Once again, you're kind of seeing a theme there. Okay, let's look at the next one. This is the one that has become the most popular in cross-cultural psychology, is individualism versus collectivism. I also posted a video on this for this week. Individualism, the extent to which a society is a loosely knit social framework in which people value taking care of themselves and their immediate families. That's, in the United States, we call that what's in it for me, the attitude of what's in it for me. In other words, when people think that way, they're just being an American. That's, it's cultural. Collectivism is a tightly knit social framework in which people distinguish between in-groups and out-groups. And in organizations, they often even move within a group throughout organizations. So let's get an idea of some of the countries here. Individualistic countries. The United States, the most individualistic in the world. Australia, Great Britain, and Canada, not far behind. And then collective countries, Japan, Brazil, Mexico, Peru. You could add China to that list. All right, masculinity is a term Hofstede used to describe one of the dimensions of culture. It's the extent to which the dominant values in a society, dominant values, are characterized as masculine values, such as assertiveness, acquisition of money and things, and not caring for others. And masculine characteristics then are contrasted with feminine characteristics such as fluidity or androgynous sex roles. In other words, equality of the sexes, importance in caring of people. The question I typically ask people, I say, is there a women's movement within the country? And if there is, it's a good sign that they're under the masculinity, because the gender roles are not being treated equal. And so the United States tends to be masculine. Masculine countries, U.S., Mexico, Japan, Germany. Feminist countries, Denmark, Netherlands, Norway, Sweden. There's also defined gender roles in masculine countries where they're not so much defined in the feminist countries. Okay, so now one of the newer dimensions, long-term orientation. Societies who score low on this dimension prefer to maintain time-honored traditions and norms while viewing societal change with suspicion, such as China. The quote is from Hofstede's website on dimensions, which I'll show you here at the end. And so is this next one. Those with a culture which scores high take more of a pragmatic approach. They encourage thrift and efforts in modern education as a way to prepare for the future. So the U.S. is an example. The newest dimension was indulgence versus restraint. High score in indulgence stands for a society that allows relatively free gratification of basic and natural human drives related to enjoying life and having fun, such as in the U.S. And restraint stands for a society that suppresses gratification of needs and regulates it by means of strict social norms. So once again, a lot of the Asian cultures fit in here. These definitions come right out of Hofstede's website. I do want to give you an idea of what these looks like, because this at his website he has a comparison tool. So if you're writing a paper and you're comparing two countries, this is just a terrific tool to use. And let me show you what it looks like here. Here we go to the Hofstede Center, and notice up here I'm under the part here where it says country comparison, under cultural tools, and it says select a country. So let's say let's pick the United States here, and as soon as we pick the United States, notice it shows you scores on all 6 of these dimensions. He calls the long-term pragmatism. Then let's say we want to compare it to something. So let's say let's compare it. How about we'll compare it to Russia, since they're in the news between the U.S. and Russia versus the Ukraine. And now we're seeing some real differences here. In other words, power distance is there's a very small distance or large distance in Russia, so that means they accept this unequal distribution of authority within the organization. They're much more collective than the United States, where you're seeing the individualism. The United States is more defined in gender expectations. Notice the uncertainty avoidance. Wow, Russians, they want certainty there. That probably connects with their power distance. Same way with orientation. Notice that they're much more in the long term, where we're the short term, and where the U.S. is indulgent, Russia. So you're seeing there's really these are almost opposite cultures. Now we could look at another one here. Let's see. Let's go grab China, and we'll look at an Asian culture here. And now we got them all 3 in here with this tool. So it just added that in. So now if we add China in, you're seeing where they're much more collective than either the U.S. or Russia. They're closer to Russia than the U.S. in power distance, so they're going to accept authority much easier. Masculinity, the gender roles are more defined in China than the U.S. And uncertainty avoidance, there's tolerance here. And then notice very much long-term orientation and very planful, not indulgent. So this is a terrific tool, and I wanted to show that tool to you. Now let me get back here. I want to show a couple of sources I have on this. This is Hofstede's original book that was out. This is info on Hofstede, and I think I had one more slide. Let me see here. Yeah, this is the Hofstede Center. I'll have the link, as it will be in the transcript, and this is a book I used as a reference. So it's an important theory, and it'll be very helpful. One, I would say, take some time and explore the Hofstede Center early in the class. Thanks.